Good morning. We're going to go ahead and do lesson 7 in your grammar, in your language. Like I said, we're going to combine lesson 7 and 8 because it kind of ends a section, and lesson 8 is a little bit different. So anyway, okay, so the new thing that we're going to learn today is demonstrative pronouns. There's only 4. This, that, these, and those. And then we're going to quickly review some personal pronouns. All right, so let's look at exercise 1. Let's pretend you're sitting at a table and there's a big pile of crayons in the middle of the table. And you are pointing and you say, this is mine, that is not mine, these are green, those are blue. Okay? In those sentences, those pronouns, this, that, these, and those, are taking the place of the word or words crayon or crayons. Okay? You know what the word demonstrate means? It means to point out or to show something clearly, right? Well, the pronouns on this list, this, that, these, and those, point out or they demonstrate which crayon or crayons you're talking about. So those special kinds of pronouns that point things out, they're demonstrative pronouns because they point things out. All right, so let's look at exercise 2. Now, I'm sitting in a chair. I'm assuming you're probably sitting in a chair too. This is my chair. That is the door. Okay, so you're on something, you're with something, it's on your person, it's right here with you. We use the pronoun this, okay? That references something that's further over there. All right, let's look at exercise 3. These are my hands. Those are your hands. Okay? The pronoun, you use the pronoun these when you're pointing out something that's close to you again. Use the pronoun those when you're pointing out something that's farther away. All right, now let's look around the room where you are. We're going to move on to exercise 4. So what you're going to do on your paper is just put lesson 7 exercise 4. And you're going to pause it, and you're going to put something in these blanks. It'll be a noun. The something is soft. The something is brown. The something and the something are breakable. Just look around the room and write something in those blanks. You don't have to write the entire sentence. Just write the words and then turn it back on. Okay, so you should have filled in your blanks here. So now let's look to exercise 5. Now, I want you to notice that what they did was, see, they took this away and they added the demonstrative pronouns, this, that, these, and those. So what I'd like for you to do is whatever up here you said was soft, I want you to write it here. Maybe you said a pillow. So if you said pillow was soft up here, then you're going to write pillow here. You say this pillow is soft. Okay? Whatever up here you said was brown, you're going to put that here. That dog is brown, whatever it is. Okay? But on exercise 5, I'd like for you to write the whole sentence on that. Underline, it doesn't tell you to do this, but underline this, that, these, and those. Or highlight it if you have a highlighter, something to help you remember that those demonstrative pronouns are talking about those nouns that are coming after those. So go ahead and pause it while you do that. Okay, let's move on to exercise 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to review back to our personal pronouns. Here's our list again. Never hurts to say them and look at them. I, me, my, mine. You, your, yours. He, she, him, her, it. His, hers, its. We, us, our, ours. They, them, their, and theirs. All right. Let us move then to exercise 7. Now, I want to introduce you to this word. Now, we can break this word up into 2 bits. Okay, we're going to put it right here. Now, the prefix ante or anta kind of sounds different. It's Latin and it means before. Antediluvian, that's the world before the flood. You've heard the word ante or anta. It means before. Sedent is a Latin word that means to go. So antecedent means to go before. All right, now remember when we said that a pronoun takes the place of a noun rather than saying Calista is doing her schoolwork. Calista had a snack. Calista went to the store. Calista babysat her niece and nephew. Okay, just using your name over and over. Rather than doing that, we can replace a lot of those with a pronoun, she or her, or whatever fits there. And if you're saying it, I or me, a personal pronoun. Okay, so whenever you use a pronoun to replace a noun, the noun that it replaces is called the antecedent. Generally, the antecedent goes before the pronoun. So let's take a look at exercise 7. Sally went to the store. She bought eggs, milk, and apples. Okay, the dark word here is the pronoun. Okay, it took the place of Sally. You could have said Sally here. Sally went to the store. Sally bought eggs, milk, and apples. But that's repetitive. Nobody wants to hear that. So you use this to take the place of Sally, which means Sally then is the antecedent. Okay, before the cat pounced, it crept silently through the long grass. It is the pronoun that takes the place of cat. That means that cat is the antecedent. Do you see that ham sandwich? That is my lunch. Sounds really good right now. That is actually a demonstrative pronoun because it's a pronoun taking the place of sandwich, because you could have said that sandwich is my lunch. Okay, so this sandwich then would be the antecedent. All right, so let's look at exercise 8. Now, on exercise 8, this is just showing you what you're going to be doing, okay? Now, sometimes you might have more than one antecedent. Jill and I enjoy stargazing, so we purchased a telescope for our camping trip. Okay, we is the pronoun. Now that's plural, so it means more than one. So that means that it takes the place of Jill and I. So they've circled those. Now notice how the arrows go from the pronoun to each antecedent. Okay. The campers and the counselors set up their tents for the night. Same thing here. There's the pronoun. See how the arrows go over to the antecedents. We toasted sausages and marshmallows over the fire. Those are my favorite foods. Again, they used a demonstrative pronoun. Notice how the arrows go over to both of the antecedents. Sometimes there could be 3 antecedents. There could be many antecedents, but in this one, this pronoun is just simply taking the place of these. Okay? If you're not sure, then say this whole thing to yourself, and instead of saying the pronoun, say the nouns that are in this other sentence that go before it, and see if it makes sense. If it does, then that means it's probably right. All right, let's look at exercise 9. All right. Now the pronouns are in bold. You see these pronouns, okay? Your job is to find the antecedent for each of the pronouns and circle it, and then draw an arrow from the pronoun to the antecedent, just like we saw in exercise 8. Okay, that's going to be your job here. Libby, would you let the cat out, please? Okay, so let's go ahead then and do our dictation exercise. We're going to go ahead and do this, and then you can go back and finish that part, and then we'll move on to exercise 8, which is very simple. Okay, so on this dictation exercise, it is a small, very short selection from The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Hodgson, I guess, Burnett. A young girl named Mary has discovered a secret, deserted garden. She comes across a large patch of tiny green shoots, and she hopes that these are the shoots from flower bulbs that spread and multiplied like snowdrop flower bulbs. Now, I'm going to read the sentence to you, And in the sentence, there are some commas. I will pause because that's what a comma does. When you read a sentence and there's a comma, you do a short pause. It's like when you go to you're driving down the road and there's red light, green light, and yellow light. Well, a red light means to stop. That would be like a period or a question mark. And then the comma would be like the yellow light. That means to just kind of slow down for just a second. So that's what I always think of. Also, the word snowdrops is one word. Okay, so listen for the pauses where the commas will go. And the word snowdrops is one word. All right, when you're done, also, I'm going to have you do one more thing, but I'll tell you that in a minute. Okay, here it is. These had been left to themselves for 10 years, and perhaps they had spread like snowdrops into thousands. Let me read it again. These had been left to themselves for 10 years, and perhaps they had spread like snowdrops into thousands. Now I'm going to read that one more time. These had been left to themselves for 10 years, and perhaps they had spread, like the snowdrops, into thousands. If you're not done, go ahead and pause it. Okay, in that sentence, did you catch the demonstrative pronoun? If you did, would you circle it? You should have circled the word these. All right. Now don't forget, I'd like for you to do these. Why don't you these are just easy. So why don't you go and pause it while it's fresh on your mind and go ahead and find the antecedent, circle it, and draw an arrow from the pronoun to the antecedent. Go ahead and pause it while you do that. Okay, so we should be finished with lesson 7. So we're going to move on to lesson 8. Now I'm not sure if this happens every week or if it happens every few lessons or what, but there comes a time where there's a lot of poetry in this, which I love poetry. When I was in high school, I used to read poetry for UIL, and I won several awards. I used to read Shel Silverstein all the time. I liked his poetry because it matched my personality. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to read the poem, and it says in here that you are supposed to try and read this poem 3 times a day and memorize it. I'm not going to request that you memorize it. If you want to, that would be wonderful. And then one day, whenever we do Zoom, you can say it to me and I'll give you a grade on it. If not, that's okay. I don't mind if you don't want to memorize it. Now, remember what we do to the title of poems. We put them in quotation marks. Notice the capitalization, the first word and the last word, but the words in between are just those small, unimportant words, on and we don't uppercase those. And the author's name is Edna St. Vincent Millay. I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. I will look at cliffs and clouds with quiet eyes, watch the wind bow down the grass and the grass rise. And when the lights begin to show up from the town, I will mark which must be mine and then start down. Okay, sorry, my computer froze. I want you to notice what these are. Now, you know when we write or when we read a story, in a book or something, and there's paragraphs, okay? Just regular writing that tells just stories, that's called prose, P-R-O-S-E, okay? That's one kind of writing. Another kind is poetry. So you have poetry and prose. I love poetry. I've always loved poetry. The thing about it is poetry does not have paragraphs. Paragraphs are only for prose. Poems have stanzas, okay? So this poem has 3 stanzas. I want you to look at what's uppercase in each one. Even if Like this here, I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. That's one sentence, but since she put this one on line 4, a new line by itself, it's still capitalized. So every single word on a poem, the very first word of every line is always capitalized. Okay. So this says, my instructor read the title, the author, and the poem, and we talked about its meaning. Well, we didn't really talk about what it means, but for myself, I mean, it makes me think that somebody's out, way out where it's quiet, and she can see the town, you know, above her, and she sees it's very quiet where she's at, and she's in solitude. That sounds like, that's like what I like. All right. Then it says, we read the poem 3 times. We have not. Anyway, it says here, and we read the poem 3 times, 1, 2, 3. We read the poem 3 more times, 1, 2, 3, blah, blah. You don't have to. It'd be great if you did. That way I could give you a grade on it, but you certainly don't have to. Okay? All right, I guess that's all. And so our next lesson will be live on Zoom.